you can get your whistle and everything and get ready, right? Where'd you go? There you went. I hit the wrong button and disappeared on me.
Yeah, you're talking to mute, Dave.
Hey, Dave, yes. Well,
Same to you, Dave.
this, stuff at the beginning and everything. Oh, who's playing what? Is that you, Dave?
Oh my God, he's got a voice box. You you sound like you're talking through a something's not right with your audio, Dave. Mickey Mouse on the radio.
Sounds like somebody stuffed something down your throat, Dave.
It's pixelating helium.
There you go.
Gus, it looks like you may have to do it after all.
Yeah, he's getting ready for the next QSO party.
This is going to be an interesting meeting.
No.
And to think I missed the comedy on Netflix for this.
This has got to be better than Netflix.
Dave, give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. Well, we can't help laughing. You sound pretty funny.
I know you're talking, Dave, but we just can't understand a word you're saying.
Can you call in?
Hey,
Sign language.
That's Dave on 5G.
What are you on, Dave?
5G or something in a pill bottle.
Oh,
NG.
That's bad. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Can you do the-
Hold on for a second. Dave? Did he go? He left.
Yeah, maybe he can just try to log off and log back in. Otherwise, an audio bridge, isn't it an audio bridge capability?
Jeff? Jeff, do we have an audio bridge to call in?
Yeah.
Yeah, the dial-in numbers are in the meeting invitation.
Okay.
he also may be
I bet you if he
rebooting.
logs in, it'd probably sound normal again. This is the quirks of what happens.
Say it again?
Oh, I bet you when he logs in, he'll probably sound normal again.
What does anybody know what that was? I've never heard that before.
I know something that happens when we do communicate, and sometimes it, that happens normally in communications of this type, where like we could get on our Alexa device or we can get on to some other devices, and it could sound like a chipmunk. It could sound like just dropping packets. It could be a rhythmic breakup like that, or anything could happen in these type of communications. In this case, it was a chipmunk effect.
The vocoder just doesn't like the data stream.
David has changed his last name to Seville.
Yeah, Dave, Mr. Seville. Oh boy.
And the fact that we're all old means we recognize that.
Okay, while we're waiting for Dave to log back on, and otherwise Gus will have to do it. I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight and logging in. We have a good turnout. 31 people so far. Anyhow, I'll just go over a couple of quick things so we can give Dave plenty of time. There he is. He's back. Dave, how do you sound?
Yeah, is this any better?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you're not as funny now.
Okay, well, that's good. At least I don't sound like I've been breathing helium.
It was funny though.
Wish I could have heard it on my end.
Oh, we've got it recorded. You'll get a chance.
Great.
Okay, let's just want to mention a few things coming up. Elections is next month. There'll be plenty of information on that on Rick Hiller's email blast that he sends out every week, and it'll also be in the newsletter at the beginning of November. So stay tuned for that. Several offices are open. Actually, all of them. Everybody can run for everybody. Now, vice president's open, corresponding secretary's open, recording secretary's open, and a couple of directorships are open. I believe that's right. Is that right, John? Or do you know John? John went to sleep. There we go. Anyhow, check the newsletter. It has all the positions there.
Were you talking to me?
November also, after elections, Rick Hiller is going to be doing a program on chokes, RF transformers, and balins, whatever you want to call it. December, we're going to have I'm not sure, it's not being put on by Mark Janzer, but he's having somebody come doing the presentation on how Amelia Earhart was located by radio. Just want to mention a couple of other dates on tentative happenings. Whether they go on or go through or not, I don't know. January 15th is the proposed tentative date for the BVARC banquet. We'll be at the Balin Community Center if we have it. A lot of it depends on how the COVID's going and everything else like that. And last but not least, Greater Houston Ham Fest, March 6th. Set up on the 4th and 5th with a dinner probably the evening of the 5th and the regular Ham Fest on that Saturday. Another program that hopefully will be coming up. I just talked to somebody about it just a few moments ago before we started. Happening in Australia, something called School of the Air. Started in 1951. Today they're not using radio, but they started using two-way radio for communications on teaching kids out in the middle of the outback. All over the middle of the outback. So I talked to the principal of the school in Alice Springs in Australia, and we're going to try to arrange that. Hopefully that'll happen maybe in February or March. So that'll be kind of interesting, the technical and also how schools taught over two-way radio, not just a direct internet link like we have here. Of course, now they're using this, but before they used regular two-way radio and HF for their classroom connections. So
they did that in Alaska as well.
yes, but I think Alaska came after 1951. I heard that the one in Australia was the first one to ever try the two-way radio on HF. So anybody have
in Alaska, they can't say good day, mate, and all that stuff.
That's right. So. Shrimp on a Barbie and things like that.
Right.
Anybody have anything? Any questions, comments, statements, lies, announcements?
A quick announcement on my end. Next test date is Saturday, November 7th. And be aware of that. And for the VEs that help me out, yeah, I'll have an email out to you the week before.
Thanks.
Mike, I've got
anything else?
Yeah, I've got an announcement. For those of you that are interested in HF and emergency communications, Mars is now doing their fall Department of Defense COMEX. It's going through the entire month of October, and they are inviting all amateur radios. One of the big focuses of this COMEX is interoperability with the amateur radio service. They're doing some pretty fancy stuff with the ARRL with the league, where they're taking radiogram traffic, from the NTS, converting it to 213 and passing it, and then doing the other way around, taking ICS 213 forms from the that are being then converted to radiograms and being sent off. Here in our region, we're probably not going to do any of that radiogram and 213 stuff, but what they are asking is for amateurs to check in to the 60-meter nets So throughout the month, there's going to be noon nets on the 60-meter channels. They're going to start on channel 1. And if the channel's clear, it'll be on channel 1. Otherwise, net control will move up to channel 2 and then on up like that. There's announcements on WWV at 10 minutes past the hour that tell you where to go sign in. They're asking for an online survey to be filled, to be completed. And anyhow, this is a formal invite from Mars for anybody that's interested to look for one of those noon nets and check in. When you check in, they're going to ask you for your call sign, your city, and your state. That's all you got to give. And then we'll collect that all that information and send them up chained to DOD. And that's it. Mike, thanks. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Gus. Anybody have any more announcements?
Yeah, I've taken on the job of the South Texas traffic manager, section traffic manager.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So anybody who wants to handle traffic, anybody who's interested in becoming a net control station for any of the HF nets, any of that stuff, feel free to drop me a line. I'm good on BVARC and ARL and QRZ. So recruiting.
Sounds good, Ron.
So, Mike, I was on the Stir Crazy Net at noon today, and I happened to hear Ron's comments, and I was hoping that maybe we could turn that into a meeting topic presentation type thing on the national traffic system, see how relevant it is in today's world.
Well, just to let you know, Bill Novak,
K9IKK, Roger.
asking permission from our repeater trustee to start using the 146.94 for passing traffic starting 7 p.m. on Monday. That hasn't been approved yet, but I talked to Robert. Robert has no problem. It'll be before our Monday night net. So Monday night's going to start kind of getting crowded, but maybe that'll bring in a few people to listen about passing traffic and everything.
I have a question.
Yes, Jerry.
Okay, if 213 is a national standard, then why are we using traffic forms?
There is an ongoing workshop, I guess you'd call it, to be able to address that exact issue. 213 is a standard for emergency traffic. The radiogram is really built around health and welfare traffic, and so that integration is ongoing.
So the answer is that we'll have to put up with two different forms until somebody up higher makes up a decision.
In both organizations, Roger. If you go on WinLink right now, you can pull down an RRI form that basically captures 213 information in a radiogram format, and that is up if you're gonna want to play around with it. I've done so, but it's going to take a little while to percolate that through the NTS.
Okay, Ron, thank you much.
Okay, anybody have any
question? This is Chris, KG5 BBF.
Oh, Chris.
I want to know where Ron's hiding his face.
Because I don't want to make you all sick.
Anybody from anything else? That means it's becoming Dave's turn.
Say what?
See, now he wakes up.
Wake up, Dave.
Can you hear me now?
Dave, it's your turn.
Okay, can you hear me?
Dave, it's your turn to talk.
Hello?
Go ahead, Dave. It's all yours.
Oh, okay, let's see if I can share this screen here. Hang on a second. And where is my screen? what's going on here. Where is my, oh, there it is. I think that's it. All right, let's see if
Yep.
this,
You got it. Let's
okay.
go to work.
Okay, let's see, I gotta scoot this, oops, gotta scoot this out of the way. And let's see if it's gonna, is it gonna come up? Okay, hang on a second. There it comes. I gotta load it. I gotta load it.
It's up. Can you make it full screen?
Yeah, it says it goes to present. It's still loading, I think. Yeah, it's still loading. Okay, I think we're loaded, and yeah, we should be able to do that. Okay, are we on?
You're on.
Okay. All right. So I'm moving the little group around here. Are you also seeing the group of the participants here, or is that muted?
No, everything's fine, Dave.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, all right. Well, this is an introduction to what we do with Civil Air Patrol as far as communications. It's not going to get real technical. It's just kind of a brief overview of what we do, why we do it, and the equipment that we use in that activity. And just for your information, Civil Air Patrol is the Air Force Auxiliary, and we are a civilian organization, but we are considered part of the total force with the United States Air Force, and we are authorized to actually conduct DoD missions for them. We have a pretty well-equipped fleet of aircraft and motor vehicles and that are utilized by us on a daily basis. In fact, we're gearing up to add continued support to our neighbors to the east. And when commercial communication systems are unavailable or overloaded, so Air Patrol radio nets are usually called upon, as well as Mars and ARES and all the other people that are in the communications community to help with command and control channels, keep them open. And of course, our primary function is to keep our aircraft flying and keep our ground crews safe and coordinated, and relaying urgent traffic to and from and with federal authorities. Primarily, our biggest missions are with the Department of Defense and FEMA. We do some stuff with the U.S. Coast Guard, DEA, EPA, pretty much the entire alphabet soup of federal agencies. Currently, we're doing a lot of stuff right now with fire spotting in California. And as I mentioned, the aftermath of what's happening in Louisiana, we're going to continue to supply FEMA with aerial photography and damage assessment. Of course, one of our primary duties is to find downed aircraft when that comes, and also every now and then we'll get a wayward emergency locator transmitter beeping away, driving commercial pilots crazy, and they notify their control center, and they notify our National Operations Center, and then our local squadron is sent out to find the darn thing. And if we're lucky, we actually get led into the hangar there and await for the owner of the aircraft to turn the darn thing off. Sometimes it works that way, and sometimes it doesn't. Again, as I mentioned, we do a lot of disaster response, search and rescue. We do support law enforcement. We've done missions for the surrounding counties, including Harris, Fort Bend, Montgomery. We've done operations for Homeland Security. As I mentioned, we're doing fire spotting in California right now. And we also do border enforcement. If you ever drive down to El Paso, you might see one of our little red, white, and blue airplanes cruising along the border there, because we do a spotting for Homeland Security.
So Dave, I thought you might want to know, and I don't know if there's many people around here that are as old as you or I, but in World War II, the Civil Air Patrol was called upon to hunt submarines off the East Coast, and actually was credited with sinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 100. German
Yep.
submarines.
That was the primary function of a group of volunteers that called themselves the Civil Air Patrol. They painted all their airplanes yellow, and that's what they did. They spotted along the coastline looking for enemy submarines, and yep, they were responsible for the sinking of one. There's even a rumor that one of the pilots actually had another guy drop a hand-dropped bomb on top of one of the subs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out to the BVARC guys here, the Civil Air Patrol's first headquarters, and we got started doing coastal patrol right at Ellington Field.
That is correct. That in fact,
and that's exactly the way we got the subs. There wasn't a lot of them. We only sunk 3, but we would drop the bombs right out of the window of the airplane on them.
Yep. Ellington for a long time was the national headquarters for Civil Air Patrol. So it is now at in Alabama.
Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama.
Right. So yep. In fact, after the war, they asked what they thought about the sinking of some of their submarines and the harassment, and they said, yeah, those damned yellow airplanes. Yeah, we were quite a nuisance to them. So yeah, good point. We do offer alternative communications, just as Mars does, and ARES in the event where conventional communications go belly up for whatever reason. We continue to provide that support, and we use both HF and VHF communications to do so. We do have ICS and NIMS trained emergency services personnel, and we're currently aligning ourselves more and more with FEMA's operations for the being NIMS compliant, and looks like all the agencies that provide communications are moving that direction. And for those of us who have been on the radio for like 14 hours straight without a break, we even have a chaplain and critical incident stress management services. So it's a great organization, though. I'm not going to read through all this, but as I mentioned, we are prepared for contingency communications when commercial communications do fail. Well, someone out there mentioned, well, why is this all relevant? Well, because we always prepare for what the military calls a bad day, when everything else just simply falls apart. It's the radio operators that are always able to keep things going and keep the lines of communications operational. Cell towers, they're great when they work, but Harvey showed that sometimes they didn't work. I remember way back in the 80s, I was sent up to New Caney as a ARES operator, and I set up a VHF station working with the Red Cross to get people's prescriptions filled while we were in that shelter there. And so, we're always providing that kind of a service for the community. And a lot of our operators are ham radio operators. A lot of them are not, but it's interesting. The more our communicators get involved with radios, they seem to kind of gravitate more and more towards amateur radio as well. In fact, for a while there, Civil Air Patrol allowed the use of amateur radio equipment for our communications. I don't know how long ago they stopped doing that, but we're no longer allowed to use amateur radio equipment for those purposes, even though I suspect there are still probably several of them out there that do. They just don't get caught. Okay, let's see here. As I mentioned, we have HF and VHF capabilities. Our HF radios, many of them are automatic link establishments, which we call ALE radios. They're on all the time, and they're constantly scanning the frequencies looking for someone to connect to, and they do what's called a handshake, and then we can pass communications back and forth between different operators without having to know a specific frequency. It scans the entire gambit of all of our frequencies that we use. And we use a lot of high frequency VHF equipment as well, with a 100-watt analog and digital, which P25 repeater, we have two primary repeaters here in the Houston area, one up near Splendora and one down in Richmond. And Gus Bernard is the net control operator for our Wednesday night VHF nets, and Gus does a great job with that. Let's see, we also have some low power repeaters that can either be ground based or they can be used as air mobile units, which we call hybrids. And during the Harvey event, our Splendora repeaters flooded. And so we took one of our portable repeaters and set it up at Hooks Airport, and that was our primary repeater for this entire operational area during that event. All the equipment operates under federal frequencies assigned to CAP, and it's compliant with the National Telecommunications Information Administration, NTIA. We are not managed by the FCC. And those standards thus allow us to be capable for interoperability with military and the federal agencies. As I mentioned, we have about 19,000 CAP members who are trained in the use of these radio systems, and close to 4,500 holding or in training for advanced communication qualifications. We have 3 different levels of proficiency. And again, as Gus knows, we are moving more towards the FEMA standards. We use something called a mission radio operator, which is going to be more towards the what FEMA calls the RADO. And then we have communications unit leaders with CULs, and those are going to be towards the FEMA CUMLs, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Gus?
Yeah, the switch has already been made, but it's not in the CAP regs yet. It's the RADO and the COML, and it's the same. We've always had the same criteria for both licenses. In CAP, they're called CUL right now, but it's the one qualifies you and the other.
Yep. So, you know, again, we're aligning ourselves more and more so we can do interoperability with FEMA and other government agencies. HF radios, this is probably our predominantly HF radio. It's a Motorola MOBAT. This radio is programmable. It's a conventional radio. It does not have ALE capability, but the radio is used for both base and mobile operation. It can perform manual links. Gus, I believe you have one of these radios in your station. And the radio is being replaced eventually by the MyCom 3 family of radios. I believe the MyCom 2F uses what's called a select call. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Cell call. Select calling.
Yeah, that's what I thought. This is the radio that most of our net control operators, including myself, have in our stations. This is the MyCom 3F, and it is a programmable radio, and it is ALE compatible. Now, those of us that are on the ALE network, we are given a schedule when we are supposed to have this radio in full ALE mode so we can take messages for our message center. And it actually works quite well in that capacity. The only thing I don't like about this radio, its noise filtering is deplorable. Most amateur radio equipment far exceeds the noise filtering as far as the noise floor over this radio. But this radio was designed for commercial purposes, and I guess that's not a big issue with them. This radio can be used with an external tuner. That's what I do. I have a random length wire antenna that is not tuned to any frequency, and I use a automatic tuner, and it works quite well. When you first turn the radio on, it sends out a little 5-watt signal, and the tuner activates and sets the radio up, and I'm ready to go. This
What does
radio
your antenna look like?
do what?
What does the antenna for this thing look like?
The average, there are 2 antennas that we use. We use a random length wire antenna, which is about 135 feet long. Mine's only like 73 feet long. And then we use a B&W antenna, which is a folded dipole antenna. You'll see a picture of it in just a little bit here, and it's quite a long antenna. It's 90 feet long, plus another 3 feet on each side for the suspension lines. It's a great antenna, but it's a little space intensive. As I mentioned, this radio can be used for either a mobile or base unit. There's a modification that we do with this radio for mobile use that you'll see in just a few minutes. In fact, there it is. This is the variation of it. As you can see, the control head's a little different, but essentially it's the same radio, and it's mounted. In our vehicles, we have minivans, and then we use a antenna that is coupled with an antenna tuner. I believe it's the FAD 141, or I guess it's the 1410A. You'll see a picture of it in just a second here, but it works pretty well. There's one of our vehicles with the antenna. You can see the tuner there on the back there. I haven't had much experience with it myself. I know the guys either love it or they hate it, but it does work. And Silver Pearl's been using this thing for better than 10 years. I've been with the organization for about 13 years now. No, it's been longer than that. I came on board in 2010, so 15 years, and this is what we've been using all that time. And I don't foresee us changing from this particular mobile setup at all. Here's another variation. This is our rapid deployment package. Again, it's essentially the same radio, except now it's pre-packaged, and it comes with as I mentioned, the 135-foot long wire antenna and another tuner that's designed for this. It's similar to what is it? The SMC tuner. Anyway, it's a separate tuner. And it works. When this radio works, it works quite well. We actually set it up at Ellington, and we were talking to our headquarters in Alabama with it a couple years ago, and it can perform quite well. This is our little workhorse. This is our primary VHF radio. This is the EF Johnson 5317. It's programmable. It's not field programmable. You have to use a computer interface to program the radio, but it is digital, it's analog, and it can be encrypted. Currently, all of our radios are operating under the P25 protocol, and they can be used either mobile or base. And as I mentioned, the programming is done through a computer, and you have the software, and you basically channelize the radio. It works with zones and channels. We have I think it's like 17 zones. Is that right, Gus?
16, and then 16 channels in each zone.
Yeah. So it works relatively well. Gus is lucky enough to have one of our new radios, which is coming out into the field, and you'll see that in just a second. We have a ton of these EF Johnson handy talkies. Again, these are also our primary handy talkie for our ground teams, and they're also P25 capable, and they're good solid radios. They can take a beating. I'm really impressed with them, but we are eventually replacing these as well as they come to the end of their life expectancy. We're going ahead and replacing them with the new radio, which is this one right here. This is the Motorola Apex VHF radio. And this radio, the advantage of this radio, gives us a lot of interconnectability with public works, utilities, public safety departments, first responders. A lot of fire departments, volunteer fire departments, and EMSs are already using these radios, and it'll give us the capability for us to talk with these other agencies in the event of a mass incident where we need inter-agency communications.
Hey, Dave?
Yeah.
There's no E in Apex.
There's no E in Apex?
For Motorola.
Yeah, this is the way it was spelled there from Civil Air Patrol, so someone misspelled it apparently.
Yeah.
The model number is APX, Alpha Papa X-ray, but it's come to be known as the apex, you know, and
That's why.
those that don't know any better.
That mystery is solved. Okay.
I mean, that's what I have at work, and TxDOT has through most of Texas. So we have.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, we've always just called it the apex, and that's how they've been presenting it. So, but that's interesting because the text that you see there is a direct clipping from Air Patrol's announcement of the radio. So, oh well, what can you say? Welcome to the military. That's, you know, the right way, the wrong way, and the military way. All righty. This little radio here has been used for a long time. They are going out of service as they die. We're not replacing them. This is a little ISR, inter squad radio. It's a very short range UHF FM radio. A little, you know, runs on penlight batteries, and the antenna just folds down. It's not detachable. And, you know, the channels are used by other agencies, DOD and other federal agencies. It's not exclusive to CAP. And, you know, this radio is not used for critical stuff. Most of the time we just keep these radios for like when we've got cadets running around and we need to keep track of the cadets, we issue them these things. And of course, every time we do that, one or two disappears because it ends up in someone's backpack and taken home with them. And then it takes us forever to track them down and find them. But they're handy little radios. I wish we weren't getting rid of them, but that's just the way things are. You know, they're not cost effective. At $84 a piece, we just keep losing them, and they just decided it just wasn't worth the expense. Okay, I don't know if we have any pilots out there, but this is one of the this is our newest radio for Civil Air Patrol. This is the FM 136. It's a VHF analog and digital narrowband aircraft panel mount radio. And the whole idea of this is to, again, be able to encrypt our conversations between the aircraft and our ground personnel. These radios are exclusive of aircraft frequencies. These are VHF FM radios, whereas the average aircraft radio is an AM radio. So, but as I understand, they work quite well. You get 200 memory frequencies on these things, and they run directly through the aircraft's sound panel. So our biggest problem is they don't fit in the existing holes where our current radio is. So we have to have our aircraft reconfigured to accept these radios. And of course, that's a cost factor. This is the radio that most of our aircraft are currently running, the NPX 138, and it is strictly an FM radio. It's not compatible with our P25 digital encryption. It cannot be encrypted. We can't use it in digital mode. And, this is one of the reasons why we are trying to phase this radio out as we are able to do so budget-wise. Okay, the tactical repeater, as I mentioned before, this is our portable tactical repeater. This is just like the one we set up there at Hooks Airport during the Harvey event. And it provided us communications both for the ground and for our aircraft. We have our aircraft equipped to have this installed so we can fly around in a big circle and provide ground communications with this repeater with our ground crews. And we affectionately call that a high bird. I don't know where it came from, but that's what we call it. Gus, you have a little bit of experience with this radio, don't you?
Yes, I've flown Hybrid quite a bit, and it's used air to air now quite a bit. We were using them. We used them a lot to communicate with the Louisiana wing when we were flying all the LoRa photography missions. And Hybrid is you usually fly it with a pilot and then a radio operator in the right seat. Although during LoRa, they didn't call any of us up, so the pilots were. You don't really need to operate it you don't need an MRO, what we call a RADO, right?
Right.
To be up in the aircraft with it, as long as it works. But these things crap out all the time when in the middle of a mission. And so, like it did to me one time, we had 12 aircraft in the air. And I ended up being the repeater manually from the right seat. And it got really, really busy. But they don't need, you just turn them on before you take off. And then usually they go up to about 8 to 10,000 feet and do a racetrack pattern. And that way it really extends the range between from aircraft to aircraft or from aircraft to ground.
Yep. When it's in the air, it's limited to 10 watts out, but when it's on the ground, we can set it up for 25 watts. The one bad thing about these things, they are rather, well, because they're portable, they can be, how should I say, misappropriated. We had the one that was at Hooks for some reason, put on another airplane, and it ended up in Missouri, and it took me forever to track that thing down. And we finally got it back after, I guess it was about 18 months, we finally got it back after the Harvey event. So we have to really be careful that we don't lose these things. These things are very expensive. I think last I heard the price tag on these was around $36,000. So we don't want these things leaving our sphere of influence. Okay, the Motorola Quantar VHF repeater is our primary repeater. As I mentioned, we have 2 of these in the Houston area, and we have another one in Colorado County. And it's a pretty reliable repeater. These things run 24/7, 365, and except for when they get flooded, they just keep right on going. Gus and I had to go retrieve the one in Splendora that was under 4 feet of water. And that it was out in the middle of a swamp. It was great fun, but and then I had to haul it back in my van and put it on a pallet and ship it back to our national technology center. And they're great repeaters, but they are dated, and as they go out of service, we're not replacing with this particular model. I don't know what the new Motorola is going to be. I haven't had a chance to look at it. These things are normally mounted on a 19-inch rack cabinet. It's about the size of a 5-drawer file cabinet, and of course it comes with the power protection, the duplexers, the isolator, circulator. And the primary antenna that we use with this is a DB224E, a very good antenna. They have like 4 separate little elements that you can either set it up for a circular pattern, or you can even bias it to a particular direction. Someone mentioned what HF antenna we use, and this is it, the Barker & Williams BWD90. It's a folded dipole HF antenna. This is actually a very good antenna when it's deployed correctly. It can be set up as a sloper. It can be set up as an inverted V. It's a little hard to do, but it can be done. But most of the time, it's either a sloper or it's a straight horizontal antenna like this. And as I mentioned, it's pretty long. It's 90 feet long, and that's not including the attaching ropes on each side, which is about 3 feet from the mast. This can be worked as an NVIS antenna. Gus has actually successfully operated this antenna as an NVIS at one of our SARXs. I had one of these set up at not Hooks. We do have one at Hooks set up. When we were at West Houston Airport, I had one up 30 feet up in the air, and it behind the hangar that we operated out of, and it's actually a nice antenna. One of the biggest advantages of this antenna, it does not require a tuner. If you've got the space to deploy this thing, I think you'd be really surprised how well this antenna works. Our little VHF antenna is I think this is really meant to be a marine grade antenna. It's sealed against the elements very, very well. It's the RFS BA1012. It's pretty broad banded. It'll handle 100 watts, and It comes with, as you can see down on the bottom there, it's an integrated mast mount. It's very robust. This antenna will take a beating. We've had these things deployed in hurricane force winds and very seldom have a problem with it. It's very well water sealed against the weather with an N connection, especially if you're using an N connection that has a weather grommet in it. There's nothing that's going to hurt this antenna. It actually performs very, very well. There's our DB224E. This is, again, as I mentioned, this is an omnidirectional antenna, or you can make it unidirectional depending on how you configure the elements. And it's about a 6 dB gain, and the connection type is again an N-type connection. I do endorse the N-type connection, guys. If you get the chance to convert from SO239 and PL259s to N, definitely do it. I think you're going to be very happy with. You won't see a huge increase in performance, but the reliability is really a whole lot better with an N connection. I think Gus will agree on that. Gus, you're a big fan of N's, aren't you?
I've converted almost everything I have to N, and the biggest advantage is that it really seals out the elements. The connector itself is for most of what hams do, it's not a big deal. It'll handle much higher frequencies than a 259, but in CAP and a lot of other places, you end up with a lot of one or the other. Most everything in my shack except the radios themselves are N now. All my switches and.
Yeah, great connector. Okay, as we mentioned, sometimes we have SARXs out in kind of remote locations where there are no antenna masts, so we use the RC292 antenna mast. It's a military mast setup. It comes complete in a bag with everything you need: the guy wires, the ropes, the stakes, the coax cable, everything. It comes in one big bag if it's all kept together. And with the proper training, it can be set up in about 30 minutes by a good crew. And we do recommend safety equipment, hard hats and gloves, of course, and eye protection, just in case of a mishap. Anytime we're working with antennas, we really prefer to have our people pretty well protected. It's a good antenna. The bag is heavy when it's all together as a kit. And we only have one of these. I wish we had a couple of them, but it's a very robust antenna. And let's see, I think one of our guys borrowed it for one of the SARXs, and I'm still waiting to get it back after almost 2 years. So apparently they really like that mast. Okay, we do direction finding, as I mentioned. A lot of our missions are actually chasing down ELTs, electronic locator transmitters. Most of the time it's a false alarm. It's not a downed aircraft, but you just never know. In the middle of the night, we get a call and we have to activate a crew and get a plane in the air. And then we have to have a ground crew. Once the plane is located in the general vicinity of where the signal is coming from, our ground crew takes one of these direction finders out, and they do a pretty good job of locating these things in a pretty short period of time. And of course, we do train our cadet ground teams in exercise, and we've hidden these transmitters in some pretty odd places for these guys. So we try to make it interesting for the cadets. This particular unit here, we've had this unit here by Elper for over 30 years. They're not making this unit. In fact, Elper is no longer in business, and these things have you can't kill these things. They're just awesome little units. And as you can see, there's not much to this one. It's literally a couple of sticks and a T and some radials, and away you go. And it works quite well. You'll see the guys out there just waving the thing around and looking for a signal, kind of like what our guys do with satellites with their circularly polarized antennas. This is another little unit. This was the later version of it, a little bit more compact. and this is the what they call the new Elper, and it's more synthesized, and this one actually can be connected to an external antenna on the vehicle. And I don't know if Gus has had any experience with the external antenna, but it actually has a little handle where they can move it back and forth and try to zoom in on a signal. It's kind of fun to work with. For the lazy guys who don't want to get out and walk around, they can just drive around in the van, and hopefully they don't stop at Jack in the Box while they're looking for an ELT. This unit, we had some mixed results with this thing. We have guys that either love this thing or they hate this thing, and you know, we still have a couple of these out there. This is the Tracker VTV 468CM. When Elper went out of business, we had to start looking for other alternatives, and this is one of them. We've had this one in service since about the mid 90s, and it is very compact. The guys do like the fact that you don't have a big case that you have to carry around with it, and it is sold with the transmitter for it. And as I understand, the transmitter is actually very good, but the receiver unit it has a little bit to be desired. But we still got a bunch of them out there. This is another love-hate relationship here. This is the latest one that we have here. It's a little bigger than the other one, but it seems to work quite well when it does work. The CMIC Profine DF500P, the nice thing about it, it comes in its own case. As you can see, the transmitter comes with it. That's the little unit there to the right. And the transmitter actually is a good transmitter. It has great range on it. And it puts out a real nice little beep signal. So we've had aircraft hear this thing from 2,000 feet up. So it's really nice. Gus, have you ever used one of these?
No, I haven't.
I think one of our guys, Jordan, has used it a couple times, and he's had some mixed opinions about it. But from what I've heard, there's a little, I don't know if you can see my cursor here, but this is like a little bar graph that goes up and down on the signal strength. So you know, it's kind of a cool little unit.
We have a special rating. Just wanted to mention, Dave, there's a qualification for these. It's called UDF. You have to qualify, you know, to be an urban direction finder, because we send these ground teams out to find ELTs, or, you know, most of the time it's not a downed aircraft. 99% of the time, it's one of these is going off by mistake. But you have to get qualified. I never sought requalification. Usually I'm in the airplane. We fly around, we narrow down about where it's at, and then we call in the ground team and direct them. And then they do the close in of, you know, finding the thing using those little, it's just like fox hunting. It's the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, there's a little it's closed now. There was a little airfield up on Highway 290 up in the Cypress area, just a little bit north of Cypher High School, little grass strip airstrip. And one of these things had gone off in one of the hangars there. And her poor team was out there in the mud, just trying to get a hold of the owner. We're not allowed to actually enter the airplane and turn the thing off. We have to get the owner of the aircraft to come out and do it for us. And that sometimes requires us notifying the DPS that we're looking for this thing, because, you know, we still got pilots up there complaining that the thing's beeping away. One of the oddest ones we had an ELT that was moving on I-45 between Dallas and Houston, and our plane went back and forth, and couldn't figure out what was going on until the ground crew that was chasing the thing realized it was on the back of a survivor boat that was going down to be deployed in one of the oil rigs. And somehow the ELT was beeping away on that thing. So we had to get the highway patrol to pull the truck over so we could turn the darn thing off. Okay, this is our little trainer transmitter right here. It operates on a frequency of 121.775. And these things have been around for a long time, several decades. They come in, the most common ones are orange, but I've seen a couple of these in black, and I've seen a couple in yellow, but predominantly ours are the little orange ones. And they're pretty small units, so we can hide these things in some pretty incredible places. Some of our people are kind of cruel to our cadets. We had one person actually put one in a dumpster, and they had to crawl through and dig through and pull out trash to get to it. I thought that was a little over the top, but but hey, that's what happens. Okay, well, that's it, guys. If anyone has any further information, or if you're interested in becoming a communicator with Civil Air Patrol, you can contact either myself or Gus Bernard. Gus is my assistant communications officer here in Group 4. Or you can go to our website there, www.gocivilairpatrol.com. Anyone got any questions?
Yeah, on your emergency locators, why don't you use EPIRBs?
I don't know. That I don't have an answer for that. The powers greater than mine make those decisions.
Because in the marine environment, we use an EPIRB, right? And it transmits your location.
Yeah, we do use them.
Do we?
Is my audio coming through?
Yeah, you're doing good.
Roger. Okay, so you do use EPIRBs then?
Yeah, these other these ELTs, the frequency has already changed. The thing is that we do all the land-based search and rescue, where the Coast Guard does all over the water searches, and rescuing. Sometimes they, in situations like keep the ELTs out on the water on boats, but we have the capability of searching for either or.
Roger that.
Ron, the thing about the ELTs and EPIRBs and all that is Civil Air Patrol has to be backwards compatible. That's why they're still doing the 121.5 and all that.
Roger that. Makes sense.
What's the new one? 406 or something? 401 something?
Yeah, 406.
406 is a standard offshore channel.
So that's the new one, but they have to be backwards compatible because Farmer Brown, who's still flying his 1935 Stearman out there, has an EL in there from the 121.5. So they've got to be backwards compatible. And they still have, if I have this right, there's still satellites can monitor 121.5, but they no longer have ones that can really zero in over a narrow focus. In other words, they can get it down to maybe a couple of miles. But they used to have satellites for 121.5 a long time ago. Did we lose everybody here?
Yep.
No, there's a lot of noise, some background.
Somebody's breathing into their mic. Somebody.
That's Clint. It's Clint.
Yeah, Roger, KF5HDF. I was having trouble with my mic. I suppose it's working now, Roger.
Roger.
Yeah, because you're blowing wind in it. So
yeah, sorry about that. I will fix it. Appreciate it. Hey, Dave. By the way, that was fascinating, man. Thanks a lot.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hey, Mike, they're going to turn off that 125 if they haven't already. The big deal with that is that it doesn't transmit a lot of information. The new 406 based stuff will give you all kinds of data. You'll know the name, the phone number of the owner, and it's really easy to find who it belongs to.
right,
I've already been registering
some of the 406 ones. Where I used to work, we'd register the 406 ones and things like that. So, but I knew they were phasing the 121.5 out on the satellites.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great program, Dave. Thank you very much. I want everybody to applaud and give Dave a good hand there.
Yay.
Even though we did like your other voice.
Yeah, Charlie the Chipmunk.
Not really.
I really want a recording of that because if I ever get a repeater up, that's going to be my announcer tone for that.
I like it too.
I think it would be great for HF contesting.
Boys and girls, I need to leave. I'm gonna leave you in capable hands of Jeff or whoever wants to run it here. I think Jeff's running it. Jeff, do you have time to run it for another 10, 15 minutes?
Absolutely.
I have a request across the street from a 9-year-old to help with a science project. So I'm gonna go across the street and help him fill his class.
You should do that.
Good deal.
Hey.
With that, I will kill the recording and we can all speak freely.
Yeah. Hey, Gus, did you call me at work a while back?